Are the gods of Ireland actually gods, or are they something else? Well, this is actually a common enough kind of question. So, Dag the Eve agus Fáilte. Hi, hello, and welcome, Jon O'Sullivan, Irish Pagan School. And I'm here to kind of talk you through information about Irish mythology, culture, heritage, spirituality, etc. So, yeah, it's an odd one, and it's both clear cut and complex as all hell. Um, so, when we talk about the gods of Ireland, we're talking about the Tuatha Dé Danann. The Tuatha Dé Danann are a particular tribe of people who came into Ireland in the time before the last tribe of people came into Ireland, the Milesians, from which the Gael people are said to be descended. This goes back to our mythological cycle in Irish kind of lore and story. Um, but they're not the only people. They're not the like divine ones that have like been created from the beginnings of the universe. They're not descended from star stuff or like foreign aliens or anything like that at all. Like it narratively speaking, we know exactly who their ancestors were, and their ancestors were people from Ireland. Yeah, we can actually specifically go back and say who their ancestors were. And this is a fascinating thing about Irish mythology and the structure that we have of the first story known as Leabhar Cabála Éireann, the Book of the Taking of Ireland or the Book of Invasions. And so in the time before the flood, I'm not going to go through all of it, in the time before the biblical flood, Ireland was empty. Into that fleeing from the forthcoming flood came Caser and her 50 maidens and their people, and they tried to get as far away to the west of the world to escape it, but they made it to Ireland. They made Ireland their home. They didn't escape it. After which came the Partholonians. They lived in Ireland for a while. They were then wiped out by a plague. After which came the Numidians, who lived in Ireland until they fell under the oppression of the Fomorians, and then their descendants, the sons of Nemed, are the ones who fled out of Ireland. Semyon, son of Nemed, is the one who ended up with his people going down and around Greece, who their descendants became the Firbolg and came back into Ireland. But then descended from Iran Bel, the soothsayer son of Nemed, was a guy called Beothuk, and Beothuk's wives, his 10 wives, are the ones who survived him, and they went out into the north and east and north and west of Ireland to find the islands where they would then their descendants would live and come back into Ireland as the Tuatha Dé Danann. And so the first conversations we actually have between a Firbolg and a Tuatha Dé Danann in Ireland is between Shreng, the champion of the Firbolg, their best of the best warrior, and a guy called Bress of the Tuatha Dé Danann, not the later Bress who becomes king, the older Bress, brother of the Dagda and brother of Oma, who was the first to kind of meet a Firbolg, and both of them kind of have a conversation and realize they speak the same language. They come from the same lineage. They're descended from the same peoples. And so when we're talking about the gods of Ireland, we are actually talking about ancestor deities. So much so that down into the medieval period, we have different bloodlines and different families here claiming lineage directly back to members of the Tuatha Dé Danann. Being descended from Nuada, being descended from Lu, the Ogonics tribe, for example, being descended from the Dagda. We have multiple different stories of varied kind of women of the She or Banshee being associated or linked with particular families, even families who weren't actually originally Irish, like the Fitzgeralds, and who came into Ireland as Normans, but then integrated with Irish culture, Irish society, and adopted their cultures and their beliefs, and so much so they claim descendancy from a woman of the She, who again was put upon by their ancestor in a bad way. Different story for a different day. Actually did a class on that, lesser known goddesses, over in the Irish Pagan School if you want to know more about those. Talchu, Flish, Boan, Anya, Cleena. So yeah, I did a lot of stuff on those classes. In that class on those lesser deities, but a big part of it was again ancestor relation and ancestor veneration. And so, does this mean that all the Tuatha Dé Danann are not gods in any way, shape, or form, and they're just empowered humans? Maybe, but it does get a bit more complex because there are some individuals who are specifically referred to as gods, as deities. One of which is the Morrigan, of course, and she is referred to twice in two separate locations as deity or as a goddess. And that is during the medieval period, but we also have another individual, the Dagda. The Dagda, like literally his translation of his name is the goodly one or the good hand or the good god. And we know the story of when that name came upon him because from the meeting of the men of the goddess in the preparation for the Fomorian invasion, And so everyone is saying what job they're going to do. Like the druids are going to bring this to the fight. The cupbearers are going to hide all the rivers and lakes of Ireland. There's a whole lot of stuff that the people are doing and offering to prepare for war. And the knight just steps into the middle of that and he says, listen, everything you have all promised to do, I'll take on the labours and I'll do it all myself. And at this meeting is some big fucking hitters. Like Gwivnu is there, Alma's there, Nuit is there, Lou is there, like everyone is there, Dean Kex is there, all of these big hitters, and no one disagrees with the Dagda. So much so that Nuada actually turns around and goes, yep, absolutely, we accept that that's the way it is, because you are the Dagda, you are the goodly god, you are the goodly one. And it is accepted that it will be done. And everything that they offered, the Dagda did do to prepare for the invasion of the Fomorians. So we have those specifically being referred to as deity, as gods and goddesses, the Morrigan and the Dag. Now, okay, they're also a wedded couple. They're a union couple. I did a video about the bedded couple, which covers a lot of that. Let's not get into any divine couple bullshit about this because that's not what we're presenting here. Also, too many things get misconstrued and convoluted around that, and we're not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about the divinity. So we're in this kind of caught in between space because of course we have stories of the various people dying during the battle with the Fomorians. The second battle of Moitura, Nuada dies and his wife Macha dies during that conflict. Later on, Lou is actually killed by the three sons of Kermit, who is the son of the Dagda, and he straight up dies. But then also we have him in the other world, coming back from the other world in order to ensure the birth of Cuchulainn, who's said to be his child or an offspring of him. There's a whole triple birth of Cuchulainn. If you're interested in that, see me for a different conversation. But we have this multiple examples where these deities die, but then also don't die. And then there's the otherworld aspect itself. And we know that the otherworld is a different place entirely to our world. It runs on its different kind of timelines. Time runs differently there. There's the island of Tir na Nog where like people don't age at all. There's so much kind of going on with the other world. And when the Milesians arrive in and take conquest of Ireland, the Tuatha Dé Danann are placed or pushed in through the Hollow Hills, through the She, into the other world. And they become the Aes a noble caste within the peoples of the She in the other world, a place that is outside of time, outside of reality. And so we have all of these varied abilities. We have all of these kind of, empowered individuals capable of so much who then are now outside of time. So how do you define deity? How do you define God? Any form of deity or any form of God. And again, it's a complex one. It's not an easily one answered. But when we look at specifically the Dagda himself, during the story where he picks up the magical club, giving him the power over life and death, the only power he didn't have at the time, he also swears that he has full authority over the sun, the moon, the sky, and the sea, which we see in another story where he banishes the sea off of Ireland because there was a big monster known as the Mata there, a big serpent, squid-headed monster. I did a video about like the Dagda and sea monsters may or may not be Cthulhu. Hot take, but that's fiction in that way as well. And so it's interesting where those inspirations and stories come from. And you have these empowered individuals performing all of these amazing kind of feats. So are they gods? Are they not gods? For me, I'm going to go with the stories that are declared. And again, this is my experience on it and my experience of working in my spiritual practice with the Dagda. He's a god. That's how I've interacted with him. Now, he's not some remote, distant kind of figure on a cloud who demands worship in exchange for kind of connections and offerings and transactional circumstances. Like, he's an integrated inspiration in my life. And from his stories, I kind of work towards being a better example of an individual that I can be. And I take that inspiration from those stories and those tales and I refer to them as gods. So I've had my own spiritual experiences in regards to the gods of Ireland, but those are my experiences. I'm not going to say that they're better, worse, different, or well, they are different to anyone else's experience. And people need to be open to fulfill and to pursue with the right kind of respect, reverence, knowledge, and understanding their own spiritual experiences in these ways. So far be it from me to tell you if they're gods or not gods, but going back to the stories, there's definitely two who are said to be gods, and the rest of them travel and move into this timeless other realm, the other world, where pretty much anything and everything is possible. So, again, hard to answer, not hard to answer. depending on which way you want to do it. But I think it's important to understand that everyone's mileage may vary, and it is up to them to kind of approach and to experience these things as they grow in their own exploration of spirituality, because that's what it is at the end of the day. We are physical beings, emotional beings, mental beings, but also spiritual beings. And sometimes we need to look outside of ourselves for examples of how to live in the right way with that, or to grow in the right way from there. And that's where God's come into it for me. Also, I'm an O'Sullivan. My bloodline is from Munster. Connect that back to the O'Gonnoch tribe. Who knows? Maybe I'm ancient descended from the Dagda as well, and maybe some form of my belief and my practice is ancestor veneration either which way. So just because it's one thing doesn't mean it also isn't. It doesn't mean it's not the other thing as well. And it's about being open to explore those things and explore our life and our connections and our spirituality in as healthy and an informed a way as we can. So, Gaurav Mahagat, thank you for being with me here for the chat. If you do want to know more, I teach a whole lot of classes on the Dagda specifically at the Irish Pagan School. Just go to the Irish Pagan School, look for Dagda. There's a free class there as well available. If you want to know more about the Morrigan, my partner Laura teaches a whole load of classes about the Morrigan. Go to morrigan.academy. There's a whole lot of content coming there, but also there's more Morrigan classes on the Irish Pagan School. So, including free classes as well, folks. That's part of our commitment to our community and to our Tuatha to try and provide as much free resources as we can to provide, and then provide paid resources to support other native Irish teachers as well. So yeah, thank you very much for the queries. Great to have a chat with you. Look after yourself. Until next time, slán. Goodbye.